Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. So I wanted to go ahead and continue my video from yesterday where I talked about, the possible changes in PvP. And so as somebody who doesn't PvP, I asked for you guys who are PvP players to actually give some, constructive feedback on some of the changes that you would love to see in PvP that you feel will make the PvP game better. Now, I have a huge list that I compiled, but I had to kind of scale it down to about 13 for the sake of shortness. And then another thing that I wanted to say is the PvP community has to find a united front and actually have the basics of the things that they actually want changed. I feel like a lot of people are divided on what they really want within the PvP community, and so it's hard to kind of get a one particular narrative out there regarding the totality of the changes. But I'm still going to say though that there were some things that seemed like were resounding from everybody at the same time, which allowed me to see that, okay, these are some of the strong points that I feel the PvP community can rally around, even though everybody might have some modification of how they would want it to be executed. But largely the particulars right now for those things, I don't think they really matter because they are general things. The first one is finding a way to separate PvP and PvE. Many people have talked about this and have said PvP and PvE need to have separate systems in how they work. This is not to say that all your efforts in PvE is a waste, but at least if you walk into the dark zone, maybe there's a way that these things are going to now have to work with the dark zone and follow specific rules for the engagements within the dark zone. And the developers, to be very honest, it seems like they design a lot of their stuff for PvE, and it's not necessarily easy for them to actually find out the implications in PvP. So when they make something that, is quite annoying in PvE, it's like they're not necessarily considering how those things can become a problem. But if you have the parameters for PvP and PvE separated, then you're going to be able to find a middle ground for everybody. In fact, one easy way that somebody has actually proposed is, why not have another mode for some kind of a PvP encounter where people can go into the mode without their gears, without their, their weapons that they farmed and talents and all that. And they're just giving basically just a random roll for a weapon. And this is something like a conflict type of mode, maybe even a hardcore PvP mode that actually, is something that players can do. Or maybe when they walk into the dark zone, they can trigger hardcore mode, or they can go into a regular dark zone where players can now engage in this mode, farm the dark zone, and kind of get things going with that kind of engagement where players don't have to deal with a lot of the things that actually go into it. Another suggestion was, if they were going to put this mode there, maybe even remove skills from this mode. You know what I mean? I mean, it's something where it's just one mode that people can go into and not have to deal with a lot of the builds that can be somewhat annoying, but also have somewhere that they can all play, and PvP players can challenge themselves and say, if you really do know how to PvP in the division, why don't you make your way into this mode and see what happens for players? And I think this is probably where the developers can get a start from. I'm not saying it needs to follow this. I mean, this is you guys' idea, the ideas that you shared with me. So how the developers are going to, implement this, that is their prerogative. I think the modes will be a good way to kind of, put a middle ground for everybody, those people who don't want to lose all the talents that they farmed in PvE, and then those who would just rather not deal with it. They can all have a mode in the middle where they all come together and battle. The next thing is fixing the backpack talents. This is a buggy mess and inconsistent where somebody builds, and builds do matter when you're in the dark zone and when you're in a PvP session. If you're in an engagement, your build does matter and it does weigh a lot. If you go into conflict and your backpack talent's not working, then what's the point of actually making a build? So if they really want to just deactivate those talents, I guess they can just say, you know what, we're deactivating this talent for PvP, rather than having the talent bug out where for one person it's not working and then for the other person it's working. Two people come to an encounter face to face, one person has vigilance and his vigilance is procced, the other person doesn't have their vigilance, and so guess what, the guy that doesn't have his vigilance is going to be shorted out for damage. This can be a problem. And then another thing that was a big concern that a lot of people actually commented on and was, on multiple, suggestions was movements. Now, I have to categorize a whole lot of things into movement because I saw some other things that you can also put into the movement category, like the running animation, how fast it is. I feel like after the patch or some patch, the game kind of slowed down. I don't know if they did that because of the Lady Liberty or something, but it seemed like our agents are actually moving much, just a hair's breadth slower than they did before. And this is a little weird, especially when you're trying to get away from enemies. Like in PvE, you're playing hard content and sometimes you want to draw back. Just that little speed could be the difference between you actually escaping or you getting down and your team wiping. I don't even know or imagine how frustrating it may be in PvP, even when the PvP got shipped with the already slower running mechanics within the game. Somebody also mentioned grenades and the throwing speed. The way they throw grenades in the game is actually really weird. Now, admittedly, Frederick Thylander talked about them working on something regarding the movement speed, and I don't know when this will be delivered, but it's still something that a lot of the community is rallying around and saying this needs to change. This needs to be made better. And then the other aspect, I think this is the fourth or the fifth thing on my list here. It talks about increasing Dark Zone rewards for all kinds of Dark Zone activities. Now, I have to actually say for this one, I absolutely agree. The other day I was farming the Dark Zone because once in a while I'll go in there and I realized that once you open a Dark Zone chest, all you get is one gear item. Maybe you get something else, but once it opens up, only one gear item comes out of it. And you use a Dark Zone key for it. You can go around the open world and open the free chests, or even go around the Dark Zone and open the free chests, and you're still going to get gear that is around the same quality. Why not make the chances for getting something really good, come out of those chests, and even increase the rewards for things such as manhunts, caches, supply drops. Some people have even talked about XP increases for conflict and even game modes and higher exotic possibilities for specific events like even the supply drops. Now, yes, the supply drops do have some chances to drop specific things, but it doesn't really seem like the Dark Zone on its own is rewarding. The same grindy mindset that they have in the PvE game, they've imported it into the Dark Zone so that people cannot get enough gear fast enough, because the Dark Zone was dropping a whole bunch of stuff when Warlords of New York came out, but they decided to go and nerf it because they are anti-fun. That's one thing about Massive. They see that fun, oh no, we can't let that happen. Players are having fun. No way. We're going to go in there and we're going to swing the hammer. Bring back the rewards that make the Dark Zone fun, because that's something where if players have enjoyed the PvE game after a while, they can say, you know what, let me get into Dark Zone. But once they start running the Dark Zone and realize there's no point for me being here, which is what I felt. I just started picking up gear thinking, why am I even here? I can run around the undergrounds, not even shoot one single NPC in PvE and get a whole bunch of gear that looks exactly like this and to this quality. I'm not saying the gear needs to be better in the Dark Zone. I'm just saying that when you do special events like open a chest or do a supply drop, those things need to at least have some form of a reward that does work. And then medkits. This was also proposed by somebody who's been a longtime member of this, community and also an audience member of my channel. And I talk about medkits needing to be significant. Now, a lot of people are saying efficient is too strong. Efficient is too strong. Efficient is too strong. Efficient's always been in the game. If you get 100% specialization bonuses at that point, then, that's what the specialization does. Efficient is still going to be strong regardless of whatever change they make to it. And even if you use it in something like PvE, it needs to be strong, because you guys all know PvE, there's a lot of damage that these enemy NPCs do, which is bringing us to the same beginning where PvE and PvP need to be separated so that efficient maybe can work differently in PvP and then work the way it's already working in PvE. And then time to kill is one big, huge thing that the community has talked about. Time to kill, I don't really know how that's going to actually work. Maybe, the proposal from somebody saying was that let armor actually count for something. And I don't really understand how, the time to kill is so low in this game. I think what they decided to do was bring the time to kill down to the type of maybe Call of Duty-esque fast-paced style game that's what they wanted to achieve with Division 2. That was their dream, and that was kind of their vision. And it's not like the Division 1 PvP where you can shoot somebody for 5 clips and they won't die. That's why I didn't play PvP in Division 1. I'm going to be honest with you. When I just, I would light up somebody with all the damage that I could, and then the person would pop a medkit and get all those extra bonuses and then run around and come gun me down. I just thought to myself, this is not for me. So for those of you who are saying you want time to kill to be increased, you better be ready, because this massive, if they give you time to kill, you'll be spending 5 minutes on one cat. I promise you. They are they know how to swing this game to the point where it can get really frustrating. So I hope you guys are, united on that front, because I'm putting it here on the list so that you guys can actually get to see it. And then another thing somebody really did say, which I think is actually pretty cool, is the PvP community needs to kind of be very defined or definite about what kind of PvP they want. I think what happened with the Division 2 is they moved the PvP away from the open engagement where everybody could, strafe run around, or AKA chicken dance their way and dodge bullets and then, fight in the open. I think they moved that system into a more, we want you to use a cover-based system in order for you to PvP. And now when you have this new so-called cover-based system where you can pop a medkit in the open, if you notice, that's actually something that's pushing you more into cover. You can't just run and strafe around. You get melted once you're open to damage. These are things that the developers have put in the game to, and how do I put it, to encourage or incentivize you to use the cover. And so a lot of the things that people are asking about, though, are things that may not be compatible with this so-called cover-based engagement, but are more, I would say compatible with the open engagement. So maybe the PvP community is asking for a more open-ended and open engagement style PvP to return to the game. And maybe they can do it in a mode like conflict, or an extra PvP mode that allows for players to be able to feel this difference without actually tweaking the entirety of the game. This is definitely something that the developers will need to think deeply about to work on. Now, another thing before I wrap up this video is, many people are saying that, Red Storm is no longer working on the game and Massive doesn't know how to, balance PvP. I doubt it. I think Massive can do it. I think they can tap the resources from Red Storm. They're all sister studios under Ubisoft. I don't know what the relationship is, but they can get some notes from, Red Storm. If Red Storm is the ultimate studio that can only do PvP, the problem is maybe, I don't know what, maybe the community doesn't like Red Storm doing the PvP. Maybe it's time for Massive to give it a shot, and perhaps something will be changed regarding all of this that's going on. So this is my, attempt to start this conversation. I know the PvP community in this game is actually much smaller than the PvE community, but there's PvP in the game, and it's just not a good look if the PvP is relegated to something that is actually just meh. Because honestly, the most original part of the Division game is actually the Dark Zone. As small as a category as it may be, it truly is what it is. Now, some other challenges that they may face could be even a bigger Dark Zone. And somebody actually made a video actually talking about how there are clues within the game that there will be a New York Dark Zone. Maybe this will give them an opportunity for them to be able to make a bigger play area so that they don't have to really tweak the DC map too much. This was probably going to satisfy a lot of what people are actually wanting, a big, huge sandbox. And even though it will somewhat, in quote, render the DZ in Washington, D.C. somewhat empty, it doesn't really matter, because people are still going to be playing the Division 2. It's not like they're going to be playing New York DZ in some other game. It's still going to be within the same game. Player counts, player base, everything is going to still be depending on all the other factors that allow for you to PvP. So I see this as probably a potential that they need to tap into. So that's pretty much it for me. I guess what I'll do is probably paste all this stuff in a pinned comment. I was gonna maybe leave a document, but you guys can reply to that comment to keep the conversation going, or let me hear what you think, as well in the comment section. If you think this is a possibility or these things are a possibility, let me know. If you're skeptic, also let me know as well. I know it can be hard to see any positivity coming out of all of this because of the way PvP has been left basically just on the floor for the life of this game so far. It's been a very big challenge. All right, I'll drop the mic. Drop the mic, right. I'll get out of here. Thank you so much for your time and audience, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.